Hi kids, I'm going to read you another of your grandfather's childhood stories. This one is called The Bike Race. There were 4 of us brothers who liked to race bikes. Johnny was the oldest, then Donnie, me, and the youngest and small for his age was Davy. The biggest race course ran across 2 properties, and a county road with some very steep spots. Nobody had ever beaten Davy, and his bike had the smallest wheels too. On this day, I had decided that Davy had been kingpin long enough. I called him out from the living room. "Come on, Davy, I'm going to race you today." "No, I don't wanna," Davy said without conviction. It was the expected response, and it let me know that I wasn't considered a serious threat in his mind. "It doesn't matter. I'm going to race you, and I'm going to beat you." "Come on," I returned. "Oh, all right." Out the door we marched, with Johnny and Donnie heading for the finish line, right at the end of the homemade sidewalk where it met the gravel road. Dad used to run a wooden drag behind his tractor over the driveway to smooth out the new gravel. But one time we brothers tied the drag to Mama's cow when Mama was in town, just for a little ride. Bossy the cow took off down the hill with a rope around her neck and the wooden pallet-like drag bouncing along behind. It was clear to us that it couldn't be ridden. Anyway, the cow near hung itself on Sister Louise's apple tree as the rope twirled around the trunk. Bossy stretched that hemp and came down flat on her back. We didn't want to worry Mama with that story, but Bossy never did die from it, though we did trade her for a good hamburger in the end. Good thing, too, 'cause I wouldn't have wanted to eat our pet Bossy. Anyway, drag or no drag, it was a very bumpy road. Davy and I were walking our bikes onto the road and starting up. "I'm going to beat you today," I said, knowing the statement would chill him to the bone with fear, and at the same time build my own confidence for the wild ride ahead. "We'll see," Davy responded. Past the old hammock at the base of the hill, where my teddy bear had met his watery grave one winter night, with a mighty toss from the treehouse. Davy wouldn't throw his. His wasn't missing an eye like mine, nor have its arm almost ripped off. It was lonely in bed that night without Teddy. And close by was Mama's Delilah garden. One time I watered those Delilahs for maybe an hour, and it was still thirsty. Of course, I finally figured out it was a mole-hole. Or was it? I asked Mama if a Delilah could drink that much, and she must not have known, because she just kept walking. I know that she thought that the cherry trees could drink a bunch, because sometimes she'd just let the hose run out on it, and keep on running. Another thing about that Delilah garden was that she always buried her wood ashes there. When I asked her about it, she said it was mighty good for the garden. Those ashes came from Pa's wood stove. He nearly burnt the house down many times. Around the first bend, we moved away from the house. There were bushes where Davy chided me into throwing my bottle away because I was a baby for still drinking one. Naps were never the same. And that window on the corner of the house, how did it get that BB hole in it? I would never tell. That little hole was perfectly round and no bigger than a snake's eye. Lightning would make big holes like that along the rocky creek. That would be an interesting sight to see. To the right, on the big curve, was the red camellia bush. It looked like a burning house of fire when it was all in red bloom. Mama loved that bush, and so did I. And I loved Mama too. She sneaked me bottles all the time. The incline was steady now, as a straight stretch moved beyond the girls' playhouse, or as it became known later, my coon house, where I kept my pet coons. I never could quite get it straight why Jack Lapp the builder broke glass on the roof. Before that, we had a blast up there. "I'm going to beat you today." "We'll see." Just over the first rise, and bearing a little to the right, we intently moved, side by side, past the old fireman's slide that our dad had set up on the country slope. Boy, you could sure get your britches torn out on that metal at the bottom. And on the left was that tree I fell out of, and thought I'd broken my back, but I wasn't even hurt. The road dog-legged to left, as the upgrade began to lessen. Under that spreading fir tree was where Davy and I had that pet mole. Of course, it was a dead one. That's why we kept him up there out of sight. Mama would never have let us keep a pet like that. He was softer and smoother than anything. Then right over there was where those two wild cats faced off, Blondie and Blackie, and I saw it. A short stretch got us to the county paved road, right where the big poplar tree grew. We used to see who could get the biggest leaf in the fall while waiting for the school bus. I didn't catch that bus too often because of my stomach aches, sore throats, hurt legs, and every other thing that can possibly go wrong with a boy when it comes to school. Also, there was that big alder tree that a boy my size could disappear behind. I didn't like it when they would yell for me with the bus right there and all. I guess they were mad because I was missing school. I was there that day, though, when my sister Annie found a poplar leaf so big it couldn't be beat. So the game ended then, I guess. Today's my day, Davy. We'll see. Across the country road we rounded the bend. It was a blind corner. They have since bulldozed out that blind hill. It was a dangerous corner. Sometimes we'd get on that little mound with our BB guns and shoot dragonflies out of the air. We shouldn't have done that, though, because Mama said they were good little creatures and they ate mosquitoes. Sometimes we were bad boys like that, but mostly we tried to be helpful to Mama. Our creek went under the road here. Once we hiked up that creek into the mountains, I thought we were lost for good. But we weren't. Just in the middle of that bend, a dirt logging road cut left up the hill. It was steep. It was so steep and dusty, we had to give up running our homemade go-karts on it, even though we used goggles. This was the Daly's property, except that nobody lived up there then. Later, Mom and Papa bought that 10 acres on the mountain and built on the top. The same steepness is still on the now paved road. If you don't believe what I'm saying, then drive on down to North Bend, Oregon, and have a look. You'll know you're on the right spot if the big bridge on the bay is perfectly framed in the sunset. Dad's gone now, and so is Davy, but Mama could sure show you that steep road. Our bodies pitched forward into a slant as we headed up that dirty incline. We've never raced this high before, Davy argued, as I moved beyond the usual starting point. I'm going to beat you today, I blurted out like a toad, trying hard to believe it. We'll see. I continued higher. Davy called, "Where are you going?" "Come on," I demanded with steel in my voice. Finally I was satisfied that we were high enough to shatter Davy's nerves. In my own mind, I was dazed with the thrill of it. I called "Go," but instead of the more passive coasting down the steep dirt road, I started out pedaling. I'd never before done that, but this was my day. My confidence waned briefly as I came out on the blind corner. There was no way I could stop, car or no. Could I keep my wheels as I veered right? No matter. No risk was too great today. I glided onto the pavement in full pedal, went round the half bend, and ducked left down our gravel driveway. I could imagine the motion of my pedals a blur. Today was the day, and here was the proof. Bending to the right, I was well past the halfway mark. I had ridden the perfect race thus far, but I couldn't resist looking back to see if Davy was even in sight. I didn't have to look very far. He was right at my back wheel. Unbelievable! I crowded his way as we went over the top and down the final slope onto the pocked gravel road. I would take no chances. I pedaled even here, going into the last 90-degree curve left, where the finish line loomed up just ahead. Johnny and Donnie were there waiting just 20 yards ahead. I looked back one last time before the curb, and there was my grim-faced brother resigning himself to a beating. Even so, he was right on my back wheel. Victory was just ahead, but it wasn't to be. I took the corner too wide, and my confidence evaporated as I hit the loose gravel and rolled into the ditch by the house. There beside our bedroom window, next to the BB hole, my hide was embedded with gravel, and there went Davy, rounding out the corner in a smooth standing-up motion, holding one fist high in the air. He crossed the finish line with whoop, standing up. I hurt too bad, emotionally and physically, to get up, but I saw Davy cross that finish line. I hollered at him, "I won that race." But Johnny and Donnie called back disgustedly, "No, you didn't," and they walked into the house. Davy strode victoriously over to me, laying in the ditch, and I said, "I would have stopped to help you." But he calmly said, "No, you wouldn't have." He marched regally into the house. I knew what he was said was true, even before he said it, as I remember the day of the contest on the bay, but that's a different story. The 2 days put together changed my life. Anyway, Davy was never beat, and he sure was kingpin on this day. That was the last bike race. Goodbye, kids. I love you.